Coffee goes to the table, sweetheart, Marco Vescari said, pressing a silver tray into Nora Bell's hands while the city's most powerful guests watched. Dante Vescari did not stop him. To the Mafia boss, she was only the quiet woman who fixed the flowers, calmed the servers, and made every impossible dinner look effortless. Then a board member vanished from his assigned seat. A contract worth millions was frozen, and Nora saw one tiny alteration on the seating chart that nobody else had noticed. It was not a mistake. It was a map. Before midnight, that map could hand Dante's empire to the man standing beside him. Nora had a flight to Chicago and every reason to leave this family behind. But when Marco tried to blame the youngest waitress in the room, Nora set down the coffee tray, unfolded her chart, and made the whole ballroom listen. Nora Bell kept the silver tray level even after Marco Vescari placed it in her hands. The ballroom at the Vescari Foundation was bright with chandeliers and the quiet shine of old money. Every guest turned just enough to see whether she would blush. She did not. At 43, Nora had learned that humiliation survived on reaction. She gave Marco the same small nod she gave any guest who requested more coffee. "Of course, Mr. Vescari," she said. Marco smiled as if he had won something. "Table 12 is waiting." Nora crossed the ballroom in her navy dress and low black shoes. She noticed the details no one else noticed. A server was missing from the west aisle. A wine glass had been moved from the edge of table 9. A guest from the Port Authority was standing beside the wrong place card. Nora filed each mistake away without slowing down. The orchestra kept playing. The donors kept laughing. At the center of the room, Dante Vescari sat beneath a painted ceiling, listening to a man explain numbers that did not sound true. Dante wore a black tuxedo with no visible ornament except a steel watch. He looked like a man who had not slept enough to enjoy his own party. When Nora reached table 12, she poured coffee for 3 board members and 1 woman with a red silk scarf. The woman did not touch her cup. Instead, she looked toward the doors. "Are we still waiting for Mr. Hale?" she asked. Nora checked the place cards. Thomas Hale was supposed to be seated between the woman in red and a banker from Boston. His chair was empty. "He was here 20 minutes ago," Nora said. The woman's eyes tightened. "He does not miss a vote." Nora had not known there would be a vote. That was not her concern. Her concern was that Thomas Hale had been assigned to table 12 until 8:40, then moved to table 7 at 8:47. The shift had been written in dark blue ink on her master seating chart. Only Nora used dark blue ink. She looked down at the chart tucked beneath the tray. A second line crossed out Hale's name. This one was black. Nora never used black ink for a last-minute change. Black ink smudged beneath the lights and vanished in a photograph. She had told the junior staff that rule every time they worked a Vescari event. Someone had ignored it. Nora. Dante's voice reached her from across the ballroom. It was not loud. It did not need to be. She handed the tray to a passing waiter and walked to his table. Dante did not rise. Marco stood beside him with one hand resting on the back of Dante's chair. "The coffee girl has a concern," Marco said. A few people smiled into their glasses. Nora kept her eyes on Dante. "Mr. Hale is missing from his assigned table," she said. Dante glanced at the empty chair and then at Marco. "Mr. Hale is an adult," he said. "Yes," Nora replied. "And he was moved twice in 7 minutes." Marco gave a soft laugh. "People change seats at a party. Not when the service path has been sealed," Nora said. For the first time, Dante looked at her instead of past her. Nora laid the chart beside his plate. The clean lines of the ballroom appeared in her handwriting with meal markers, staff routes, allergies, security holds, and the names of guests who required quiet exits. She did not think of it as a chart. She thought of it as a promise that no one would be lost in a room full of power. Dante studied Hale's name. Then Marco reached for the paper. Nora placed her hand over it before he could take it. "I need it back," she said. Marco's smile disappeared. "You are becoming very bold for someone who pours coffee." "I coordinate this floor," Nora said. Her voice stayed calm. "I pour coffee because it is part of the work." The woman in red stood from table 12. Her chair scraped the marble. "My brother does not disappear during a board vote," she said. Every conversation near the stage went quiet. Dante's jaw hardened. "What vote?" he asked. Marco's hand tightened on the chair. "The trustees are discussing a temporary measure," he said. "No one mentioned a vote to me," Dante said. The silence that followed was different from the first silence. It had weight. Nora watched Marco, not Dante. Marco did not look surprised. He looked annoyed. That was enough to make her notice the tiny black mark beside Hale's name. It was not a letter. It was a small square with one corner cut away. Nora had seen the same mark once before, on the replacement cards delivered after the florist made a mistake. Those cards had not come from the florist. They had arrived in a plain envelope with no return address. Nora folded the chart once and held it against her ribs. Dante stood at last. "Find Hale," he told his security chief. Then he looked at Nora. "Stay where you are." Nora met his gaze. "I have 32 staff members depending on me," she said. "I will be where the work is." For 1 second, something almost like respect moved across Dante's face. Then his phone vibrated. He read the message. The color left his face. Across the ballroom, the lights above the stage dimmed. A secretary stepped to the microphone with a sealed folder in both hands. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "the board will now convene an emergency session." Marco turned toward the stage as if he had been waiting for that sentence all evening. Nora looked down at the black mark beside Thomas Hale's name. Then she saw 3 more marks, hidden beside 3 other seats. The names beside those marks belonged to people who had questioned recent transfers from the foundation. One was the banker from Boston. One was an elderly trustee who had paid Nora a compliment during setup. The last belonged to Dante's oldest family advisor. None of them had been scheduled to leave through the same corridor. Yet the black ink changes sent every one of them toward the West Service Hall at the exact same time. All 4 chairs were empty. Nora knew this was no accident. The secretary opened the sealed folder and read from a page that shook only once in her hands. "Due to concerns regarding the foundation's pending transfers, the trustees will consider emergency authority for interim management." The orchestra stopped in the middle of a song. Guests turned toward Dante with expressions that were afraid, calculating, or both. Marco looked almost sympathetic. Dante moved toward the stage with his security chief at his shoulder. "Who called this meeting?" he asked. "The request came through council," the secretary said. Dante looked at Marco. Marco spread his hands. "I advised the trustees that they needed protection." "From me?" Dante asked. "From uncertainty," Marco said. Nora did not stay to watch 2 powerful men measure each other in silence. The West Service Hall was her responsibility. So were the people who worked it. She caught the eye of Lila, the youngest waitress on her team. "Check the banquet kitchen," Nora said. "Ask every server to remain on their assigned floor. No one leaves alone." Lila nodded. "What do I tell them?" "Tell them the schedule changed." Nora did not say the word danger. Her people did better with instructions than fear. She crossed the west corridor at a brisk walk. The lights there were lower, and the carpet swallowed the sound of her shoes. 4 place cards lay on a narrow console beneath a framed black and white photograph. Thomas Hale, Ellen Price, Gerald Whitmore, Samuel Vescari. The cards had been removed from the tables and placed in a perfect row. Nora did not touch them. At the end of the console sat a silver water pitcher from table 7. It had no business being in the service hall. Neither did the printed sign taped beside it. "Private Trustee Reception." The paper had been cut from a larger sheet. Nora knew because she had ordered the larger sheet for the dessert menu. Someone had used her supplies to create a room that did not exist on any approved plan. A door opened behind her. Dante's security chief, Rafe, stepped into the corridor with his earpiece pressed tight. "Nothing in the hall," he said. "No guests. Not one." "Then why are there cards here?" Rafe looked at them. His expression did not change. But his hand moved closer to his jacket. "Can you see this corner on camera?" Nora asked. "The angle skips it." Nora remembered that Marco's office had requested a floral display beneath the camera the week before. At the time, she had assumed it was for photographs. "Please make the West Hall feel more private." Her stomach tightened. Rafe's phone buzzed. He listened, then looked toward the ballroom. "Mr. Vescari needs you both." Nora looked once more at the cards. Samuel Vescari had sat at the family table for 20 years. If Samuel had been moved, this was not a petty insult to Dante. It was a cut made inside the family. Back in the ballroom, the emergency session had already begun. Dante stood beside the trustees' table. Marco had taken a position 1 step behind him, close enough to appear loyal and far enough away to appear innocent. Nora hated how effective it was. Dante saw her and motioned her over. "What did you find?" he asked. 4 cards in the West Hall," Nora said. "Someone staged a private reception." Marco made a sound of impatience, or a server misplaced materials. Nora turned toward him. A server would not use a dessert menu sheet to make a sign. A server would not remove 4 trustees from their tables. And a server would not know exactly which people had challenged the transfers. Marco's expression cooled. "You are making accusations beyond your station." Nora felt every eye in the room shift toward her. The old instinct told her to make herself smaller. Instead, she pulled the master chart from beneath her folder. "I am not accusing anyone," she said. "I am saying the changes follow a pattern." Dante held out his hand. This time he waited, Nora noticed. Then she handed him the chart. He read the 4 names. "Why these 4?" he asked. "Because they were all moved after 8:47. Nora said. Because each one was rerouted through staff corridors. And because each one has a black corner mark next to the change. Marco laughed, but there was no warmth in it. A black square proves nothing. No, Nora said. It proves someone who understands my system wanted those guests moved without leaving a service record. Dante looked at her. What system? Nora pointed to the small colored circles beside every name. Blue means confirmed at the table. Gold means the guest needs an escort. White means a temporary adjustment. Nothing black is permitted because it does not photograph clearly. Dante's eyes narrowed. You made that rule? Yes. Why? Because people lie about where they were. Marco stopped smiling. A trustee in a gray suit cleared his throat. Dante, the matter before us is financial. It is also procedural, Dante said. His eyes stayed on Nora. Continue. For the first time that night, the room listened without mocking her. Nora traced the altered path from table 12 to the West Hall, then toward the private elevator. Whoever made these changes knew the service routes, she said. They knew which guests would not question being redirected, and they knew the emergency meeting would begin after those guests had been separated. That is speculation, the trustee in gray said. It is a sequence, Nora replied. You hired me to prevent confusion. I am telling you this confusion was designed. Dante took one step closer to the chart. Where are they now? Nora looked toward the private elevator doors behind the stage. The brass indicator above them was glowing. The car had just reached the top floor. Nora had closed the rooftop terrace at 8 o'clock because of rain. No guests should have been up there. She reached for her radio. Leela, she said. Do you see anyone heading toward the roof? Lila's frightened voice answered through a burst of static. No, Miss Bell, but someone just told us to send the dessert staff upstairs. Nora looked at Dante. The dessert staff included 6 young servers, and the only person authorized to change their assignments was the name written at the bottom of the black ink list. Marco Viscari. Marco Viscari's name sat at the bottom of the black ink list like a stone dropped into still water. No one in the ballroom spoke for several seconds. Then Marco turned toward Nora with a look of practiced disappointment. You do understand that I approve staff schedules for this house, he said. Yes, Nora replied. That does not mean you ordered 6 young people into a closed rooftop service area. Marco's eyes sharpened. Be careful. Nora looked past him to Dante. The roof access needs to be stopped, she said. The staff needs to be brought back downstairs, and the trustees need to be kept where everyone can see them. Dante was reading the chart again. Rafe stepped forward. I can lock the elevator. Do it, Dante said. Marco lifted both hands. This is absurd. Then it will be easy to clear up, Dante replied. Nora caught Lila's voice through the static. Miss Bell, they are asking why they cannot go upstairs. Tell them there was a change in service, Nora said. Keep them in the kitchen with the doors open. Do not let anyone sign anything. Lila hesitated. Why would they sign something? Because someone may ask. Dante watched Nora lower the radio. You think my staff is being used. I think your staff is being put where they can be blamed. Marco laughed once. Now she is a detective. No, Nora said. I am the woman who knows where every employee was supposed to be. The trustee in gray looked from Nora to the chart. Can this woman verify the locations of the missing trustees? Dante answered before Nora could. Her name is Nora Bell. She designed the movement plan for this entire event. She will verify whatever she can verify. It was not an apology, but it was a correction. Dante turned to Nora. What do you need? The question changed the air between them. I need the printed guest manifest, Nora said. I need the original vendor delivery log. And I need a room where no one can take this chart from me. Rafe gave a short nod. The operations office is clear. Marco stepped between them. You cannot hand a private foundation's records to a caterer. Nora kept her chin level. I am not a caterer. Dante did not look at Marco. Rafe, bring the records to the operations office, and do not interfere with Ms. Bell's work. Marco's restraint cracked. You are trusting an employee over your own counsel? Dante's gaze hardened. I am trusting the person who noticed a problem before any of you did. Nora walked toward the operations office with Rafe beside her. The office had once been a coat room. Nora had turned it into the command center for the night. A folding table held spare radios, seating backups, allergy cards, staff schedules, and 2 pitchers of water. Everything had a place. That was why disorder showed itself so quickly to her. Lila was waiting inside with 2 other servers. Her cheeks were wet. Nora set her radio down. Everyone listen to me, she said. No one is in trouble for following a schedule. If anyone asks you to change location, sign a form, or carry a message, you call me first. One of the servers, a young man named Evan, looked at the floor. I took a note upstairs, he said. Nora softened her voice. What note? A sealed envelope. Who gave it to you? Mr. Marco's assistant. Where did you leave it? On the table by the terrace doors. Evan's hands were shaking. I thought it was for a trustee. You did what you were told, Nora said. You are safe here now. Nora looked at the staff roster, then at her master chart. The route Evan had taken was marked in black ink. So was the route assigned to the dessert team. The same 4 black squares appeared at the same time interval, 8 minutes apart. They were not just symbols. They were instructions disguised as corrections. The pattern placed people in private rooms without putting a single instruction into the official event schedule. Dante entered the office without knocking. He had removed his tuxedo jacket. The tightness in his shoulders looked less like anger now and more like exhaustion. Rafe says the trustees were found on the roof, he said. Are they all right? Nora asked. They are cold, angry, and refusing to agree on what happened. That means they were not together by choice, Nora said. They were seated at separate tables and moved through different corridors. Dante looked at the chart in her hands. And the envelopes? Could be anything, Nora said. But a sealed envelope placed beside people who were already separated creates pressure. It makes a story easier to sell. Dante went quiet. Did Marco have access to the records? She asked. He has access to too much, Dante said. The answer carried no pride. It sounded like regret. Rafe returned with the vendor delivery log and the original guest manifest. He placed both on the table. Nora opened the manifest first. It was printed at 6 o'clock before guests arrived. Thomas Hale was at table 12. Ellen Price was at table 4. Gerald Whitmore was near the stage. Samuel Vescari was beside Dante. She placed the original sheet beside her master chart. The changes began at 8:47. Each black mark appeared next to a name that had asked questions about the pending transfers. Nora ran her finger along the printed times. Then she stopped. Mr. Vescari, she said. Dante moved beside her. He did not touch the page. What is it? The changes were entered after the dinner service began. Yes, but the replacement cards were delivered before dinner. Dante's eyes lifted to hers. The cards were prepared in advance. Exactly, Nora said. Someone knew these people would need to be moved before anyone knew there would be an emergency meeting. Rafe swore under his breath. Dante looked toward the closed door. Nora folded the chart carefully. You were right not to give it to Marco, he said. I did not know he would need it, Nora replied. You knew he wanted it. Yes. Dante drew a slow breath. I should have listened when you first spoke. Nora met his eyes. You should have. He accepted the answer without flinching. Then a knock sounded at the door. Lila opened it only a few inches. Her face had gone pale again. Miss Bell, she whispered. Marco's assistant is here. He says Mr. Vescari ordered him to collect the seating chart. Dante's expression changed. He had not ordered anyone to collect it. Dante did not raise his voice. He did not have to. Send him away, he told Rafe. Rafe opened the office door. Marco's assistant stood in the hallway with his hands folded and his eyes fixed on the carpet. I was told to collect the seating chart, he said. By whom? Rafe asked. Mr. Marco. Dante stepped into the doorway. Did I give that order? No, sir. Did anyone tell you to say I did? The assistant looked toward the ballroom. He did not answer. Rafe led him away. Dante closed the office door. For the first time that night, he looked less like the man everyone feared and more like a man who had built his life around the wrong people. I should have seen this, he said. Nora kept both hands on the folded chart. You were busy being the person everyone needed you to be. That is not an excuse. No, she said. It is just the reason. Then his phone lit up again. The trustees want the emergency vote in 15 minutes, he said. Nora looked at the clock above the supply cabinet. It was 10:42. Her flight to Chicago left at midnight 45. The car from the hotel was due at 11:10. A clean exit waited for her. A job with a normal board of directors, a city where no one knew her as the woman holding a coffee tray. Dante noticed her look at the time. You have somewhere to be. I have a flight, Nora replied, to Chicago. Tonight? Yes, Dante looked back to the chart. You should go. Nora had expected him to tell her to stay. You need this, she said. You do not owe me your night because I failed to value your work, Dante said. The apology was not polished. It was honest. I will finish the service handoff, Nora said. After that, I am leaving. Dante nodded. He did not argue. Rafe returned with a tablet. The trustees are back downstairs, he said. Marco is with them. 3 of them say they were handed documents to review. None of them signed. Dante did not raise his voice. He did not have to. Send him away, he told Rafe. Rafe opened the office door. Marco's assistant stood in the hallway with his hands folded and his eyes fixed on the carpet. I was told to collect the seating chart, he said. By whom? Rafe asked. Mr. Marco. Dante stepped into the doorway. Did I give that order? No, sir. Did anyone tell you to say I did? The assistant looked toward the ballroom. He did not answer. Rafe led him away. Dante closed the office door. For the first time that night, he looked less like the man everyone feared and more like a man who had built his life around the wrong people. "I should have seen this," he said. Nora kept both hands on the folded chart. "You were busy being the person everyone needed you to be. That is not an excuse." "No," she said. "It is just the reason." Then his phone lit up again. "The trustees want the emergency vote in 15 minutes, he said. Nora looked at the clock above the supply cabinet. It was 10:42. Her flight to Chicago left at midnight 45. The car from the hotel was due at 11:10. A clean exit waited for her. A job with a normal board of directors. A city where no one knew her as the woman holding a coffee tray. Dante noticed her look at the time. "You have somewhere to be." "I have a flight," Nora replied. "To Chicago." "Tonight?" "Yes." Dante looked back to the chart. "You should go." Nora had expected him to tell her to stay. "You need this," she said. "You do not owe me your night because I failed to value your work," Dante said. The apology was not polished. It was honest. "I will finish the service handoff," Nora said. "After that, I am leaving." Dante nodded. He did not argue. Rafe returned with a tablet. "The trustees are back downstairs," he said. "Marco is with them. 3 of them say they were handed documents to review." "None of them signed," Dante said. "Not yet," Rafe replied. Nora looked at the original manifest. "Where were the documents left?" "On the terrace table." "Then the cards and the envelopes are part of the same sequence," Nora said. Marco needed each trustee isolated long enough to hear his version first. Rafe's radio snapped to life. "Security to Ballroom West," a voice said. "Employee situation." Nora reached for her radio. "Who?" "Lila Porter." Nora was moving before anyone answered. Dante followed her. Lila stood between 2 security officers with a sealed folder pressed to her chest. Marco stood several feet away with a look of patient concern. "Poor girl," he said. "She says she was only following instructions." Nora stopped in front of Lila. "Did anyone tell you to carry this?" "A man in a gray coat," Lila whispered. "He said Mr. Vescari needed it in the office." "Which Mr. Vescari?" "I do not know." Marco shook his head slowly. "This is why personnel problems should be handled quietly." Nora looked at the folder. It had no name, service label, or timestamp. Nothing about it belonged to an event Nora had organized. "Lila, look at me," Nora said. Lila did. "Did you open this?" "No." "Did you place it on the terrace?" "No." Nora turned to Rafe. "Who saw her pick it up?" "No one." "Then she is a witness," Nora said. "She is not evidence." Marco's face changed by a fraction. "Ms. Bell, you are not in a position to decide that." Dante stepped beside Nora. "She is," he said. Marco looked at him. "You cannot mean that." "I mean, she knows this operation better than anyone in this room," Dante said. "Lila stays with Ms. Bell." The security officers stepped back. Lila began to cry in relief. Nora put a hand on her shoulder. "Take her to the operations office," she told Evan. "Stay with her." Then Nora took the sealed folder from Lila. It was heavier than paper should have been. A small brass paperweight sat inside. Nora recognized it immediately. It belonged on Dante's desk in the private library. The Vescari crest was engraved on its face. Marco saw her turn it over. His expression did not move, but Nora knew why the weight had been placed inside. It made the folder feel important before anyone opened it. It was theater, a false object of authority. She carried it back to the operations office without breaking the seal. Dante followed in silence. Once the door closed, he spoke. "You saw something." "The paperweight," Nora said. "It is from your library." "Yes." "Does it belong in a folder for trustees?" "No." "Then whoever made this wanted the folder to look like it came from you." Dante's face darkened. "What is in it?" "I do not know, and I will not open it." He stared at her. "You do not want to know?" "I want to know. But if I open it without a witness, I become part of the story they are trying to tell." Rafe nodded. "We can have the trustees present." "Not yet," Nora said. "First, I want the one thing that cannot be rewritten." She laid the master seating chart on the table. "Your whole night is moving around this." Dante looked at the black squares. "What do you need?" "The timeline from the ballroom screens," Nora said. The exact minute each table changed, and access to the original card printer. Rafe looked at Dante. Dante gave the order. "Whatever Ms. Bell asks for, she gets." Nora looked at the clock again. 11:03. Her car would be arriving in 7 minutes. Dante followed her gaze. "You do not have to stay. My bags are in the staff office," she said. "I am still leaving." Dante nodded. "Then I will make sure you leave safely." Nora met his eyes. "That is not your decision." Something softened in his face. "You are right," he said. "It is yours." Her phone vibrated. A message from the Chicago hotel confirmed her pickup had arrived early. Then Lila's voice sounded from the hallway. "Ms. Bell." Nora opened the door. Lila stood pale beside Evan. "The trustees are asking for you," Lila said. "They want the coffee girl to explain why she changed their seats." The trustees were waiting in the smaller ballroom when Nora arrived. Marco stood beside the sealed folder. Dante stood near the wall with Rafe behind him. The woman in the red scarf spoke first. "You changed our seats." "No," Nora said. "I recorded the changes someone else made." Marco gave a low laugh. "She is an event coordinator. She has no understanding of the Foundation's affairs." Nora put her master chart on the table. "I understand what happens when a person is moved without a clear reason." The blue, gold, and white marks made a careful map of the night. The black squares stood apart from all of them. "I am saying they violate every rule used to run this event," Nora replied. "Every approved adjustment has a color, a time, and a service route. Black has none." Marco folded his hands. "Anyone could draw a square." "Yes," Nora said. "But not anyone could make 4 changes that match the exact routes, staff assignments, and card deliveries already fixed in this chart." She pointed to the marked names. Thomas Hale, Ellen Price, Gerald Whitmore, and Samuel Vescari were moved 8 minutes apart. The same interval released the dessert staff. The same interval kept every one of you from crossing paths. The trustee in gray looked at Marco. "Why would someone do that?" "To make each of you feel alone," Nora said. "To put a document in front of you before you could compare what you had been told." Marco's voice turned sharp. "This is a theory built from place cards." "No," Nora said. "It is a sequence built from my original plan." Rafe placed the original manifest, delivery log, and card printer report beside the chart. Nora did not touch them. "They are not the proof," she said. "They only show when this chart was interrupted." The black marks appeared later, after the replacement cards were already waiting. Marco had prepared the trap before anyone announced an emergency vote. The woman in red looked down at the sealed folder. "What is in this?" "I did not authorize it," Dante said. "It was placed in the hands of a staff member with no record." Nora stepped back from the table. "This needs to be opened with witnesses." Rafe broke the tape in full view of the trustees. Inside were unsigned emergency proxy forms and a typed statement accusing Dante of concealing the pending transfers. There was no signature, there was no letterhead, there was only pressure waiting to become a decision. Thomas Hale looked at Marco. "You expected us to sign this." Marco's face had lost its patient concern. "I expected you to protect the Foundation. By isolating us?" Ellen Price asked. "By using staff as messengers," Samuel Vescari said. Marco looked toward Dante. "This organization is weak because you let outsiders question it." Dante took one step forward. "She is not an outsider to the work she has done for us," he said. "And you are not entitled to speak for this family because you share our name." Marco's mouth tightened. "You would hand your judgment to a woman you met at a coffee station?" Dante started to answer. Nora lifted one hand. He stopped. She faced Marco herself. "You called me the coffee girl because it made it easier to ignore what I saw. You thought work done quietly did not count as work. You were wrong." She tapped the chart once. "This is the record of who was placed where, who was redirected, and who benefited from every confusion. You only needed to know that I was paying attention." Marco's control finally broke. "You cannot prove I put those marks there." "No," Nora said. "I can prove that you asked for the private corridor, ordered the floral cover, prepared replacement cards before the meeting, and sent your assistant to take the only chart that recorded the pattern. Then you tried to turn an innocent waitress into your evidence." Marco looked around the table for support. No one gave it to him. Samuel pressed the call button beneath the table. "The emergency vote is suspended," he said. "The Foundation will appoint independent counsel. You will have no further access to its records or staff." Rafe stepped forward. Marco did not resist. He only looked at Dante. "This will cost you." Dante's voice was flat. "It already has." When Marco was gone, Ellen Price stood first. "And I owe you an apology," she said. "We treated the person who held the room together as if she were invisible." Dante approached only after the trustees had finished speaking. "I owe you more than an apology," he said. "Yes," Nora replied. "I know. I will not ask you to stay tonight. I will not make promises in front of a room just to feel better about failing you." Nora looked at the clock. 11:27. Her car was still waiting downstairs. "Good," she said. "Because I am leaving." Dante accepted the answer. Then Samuel cleared his throat. "The Foundation needs an operations and integrity director," he said. "One with the right to review access, approve procedures, and stop a process that puts staff at risk." "It would be independent," Ellen said, "directly accountable to the trustees, with a voting seat on the new Integrity Council." Nora looked at Dante. "I have a job in Chicago, and you should take it," Dante replied. "If it is the life you want, you would not ask me to stay?" "I would ask you to consider a contract," he said. "Not a favor, not a debt. A role with written authority and the right to walk away." Nora thought of Lila and Evan. Then she thought of the car downstairs. Freedom was knowing she could leave and still choose what mattered. "I will consider the contract," she said, "but I will take my Chicago flight tonight." Dante's expression softened. "Then I hope Chicago is good to you." "It will be," Nora said, "because I will make it good." Lila appeared at the doorway with Evan beside her. "You saved me," Lila said. "No," Nora replied. "You told the truth. I made sure the room heard it." Dante walked Nora to the elevator, but stopped before its doors. He did not reach for her. "May I call you when you are settled?" he asked. Nora looked at him for a long moment. "You may call once," she said. "If I do not answer, you wait. I will. And if I come back, it will be because I chose the work and the terms." "I understand." Nora stepped into the elevator with her chart tucked under one arm and her overnight bag in the other. The doors began to close. For the first time that night, no one called her the coffee girl. They called her by her name. If a room has spent years overlooking your work, would you leave it behind, or would you make it learn how to see you?